Hi there, Chris here. Today I want to talk to you about your money tree. If you're watching this video, you've probably somehow been directed to it because you heard about a free store or a profitable global business opportunity or a BizOp ad or something like that. In our model, we refer to our tracking mechanism of the group of people that you sponsor as branches. Yet in most of our diagrams we do draw them as more of your traditional network marketing pyramid, if you will, with the downward angle, just because it's easier to put you at the top of the page and then the people you've signed up and the people they've signed up. But it very much fits with the tree concept just as well, and it looks quite nice. It's just a little bit disorganized. If you start trying to actually write in names and things like that, then it's a little bit harder to actually draw it as a tree. And from the perspective of how it fits with the tree, if you think of it as how we would draw a family tree, then the way that we typically draw it is more natural as well, because obviously if you're born, you don't show your ancestors coming out from you, they're below you, more of the root system, if you will. But still, let's take a peek at this diagram here and just see how it does fit the model. You join the business, you plant your tree, seedling we'll call it, for $60. That's all it takes to get started, to plant this tree. Then you have to reach out to the world and share it with people. Each of these little green leaves here that I've drawn on the trunk of the tree even, and that might be one of those little sucker branches that grows extra VIPs there. But each of those little green dots or leaves on this tree diagram here is a VIP shopper. It's a consumer that sees the value in our private labeled products and the great prices, everyday prices, that they can walk into the store anytime and get a great deal without buying a huge box or case of something. So each of the leaves on this tree represents a shopper. Now, I don't know if you've ever studied much about horticulture or botany or anything, but trees do actually have what they call nodes, where each branch forms and takes off from the tree. They call that a node, and that's what they call them in our network structure too. When we draw them like this, these are nodes, or the other thing we call them is profit centers. Profit center. And so I've drawn a little node on each of these branches here, and also off of the main trunk. If you look at this main trunk, this is all us, right? So in that main trunk, any of the new branches that take off are like adding a branch onto here. If you want to draw your network as a tree, you can. I'm teaching you how. Then each of these people, this is like this branch that then gets another branch and another branch, and another one off of that, whatever. So just like a tree can branch out and grow basically unpredictably based on the sun, the wind, the rain, who hits it, cuts it, trims it, whatever. Your business is very much like that, in that it's a living organism with a very unpredictable final outcome. Even if your seedling is genetically modified or something to be a specific way, the environmental forces could have an effect on the way that it ultimately ends up looking. But the trick to a healthy tree is what? You could have a tree with many, many branches, but if there's no leaves on the tree, it depends, I guess, if it's a deciduous tree or not. If it drops its leaves in the winters, then you can see the branches, but you wouldn't want that. in your business tree. You want a tree that has leaves all year around, because you need these shoppers. If you think of each of these little leaves as $1 hanging there, that's another way to think of it, because it's actually a customer. You know, each leaf, let's see if I can draw a leaf. Oh, that's a lousy leaf, isn't it? Let's try again. Each leaf is a VIP, or money, profit. So we need these VIPs to be photosynthesizing, to be spending money and purchasing these great products every month if we want our money tree to pay us every month. So, you know, grow your tree. You obviously want to get branches, but remember your leaves, remember your VIP shoppers, and don't worry about if you get a little scraggly branch in here. Don't worry about it. I mean, I guess if it's really irritating you, you could trim it off, but that's not the idea. Give it time. It may grow eventually into, a great big huge branch with all these little sub branches off of it. Maybe it just needed some kind of a start. Maybe an insect or a bird, woodpecker pecks at it there, and then it decides, screw it, I'm going to sprout a branch. In nature, the same types of things could happen. You might have a tree that hasn't had a big branch here, and if you don't trim it, the little sucker sapling branches will come out and form new large branches down here. So even if you have a small branch, or let's just write it as small branches, see how that vibrates, grow into big ones. And we could write over here seedlings grow into large trees. Properly cared for. So why did I say that? That's kind of stating the obvious. Sure, you plant a little seedling and it's going to grow into a big tree. Well, only if it's properly cared for. You got to water it. You might even have to fertilize it. Maybe you need to advertise your business a little bit in order to find some, new shoppers and grow some new leaves or some new branches. Similar to what I'm doing here, if you're on my team, I'm more than happy to help you with, branch growing efforts and leaf finding efforts and otherwise. So I just want you to realize that if you plant the seedling and you walk away from it and you don't water it, what's going to happen? You've probably done this. I know I've done it before, both with little business ventures I've tried as well as real life trees that I've killed, or house plants or otherwise. I work too much sometimes, but anyway, you have to care for the tree or your business in order for it to prosper and to grow and to produce money for you. And if you have a nice healthy tree that's well distributed with branches, lots of branches and lots of leaves, you can see where you could have an endless supply of money. And once a tree gets more established, what else is true? It's a lot harder to kill, isn't it? I mean, there's trees that maybe you didn't want in your yard that, elms are a good example. They grow like weeds. So may you have an elm tree business. But anyway, if you try to cut them off, they just grow right back, because the root system of the tree, is so deep at that point that it can get water from deep within the earth or far away distances. So it's well connected, and the root system of this tree, in this analogy, if you will, to me, is your existing network of people and or your avenues or means of meeting new people. That's the nutrients. That's the feeding funnel, if you will. If you're a network marketer, you could say this is your root system, is your sales funnel that's feeding the growth of your tree. And each new root typically corresponds to a new branch. It's got to have a way to feed the tree the nutrients. Now obviously we're not really a tree. We usually draw our business like this, but you can see that the tree analogy is quite real and quite applicable. And we're very different from the typical network marketing, direct selling, MLM type company. Many people have had bad experiences with those companies. I'm not going to get into all the details of why, but I will say that our company is very different, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how different it is. So I like talking about our business with branches and the tree concept, but it is a little bit harder to draw on paper. So even if I'm teaching you about the business, I'm typically going to use this analogy, but maybe I'll work on some notepad paper or whatever that lets me draw it like this a little bit better. But I thought I would do this for you because it makes some nice points about the organic growth nature, the fact that a little branch can grow into a big one, and look at that. That one doesn't have any leaves on it. I grew that as a new branch, but let's pretend it's a dead branch. Or maybe it was a MLM guy, came in, signed up, made a bunch of branches. He said, oh, everybody, you're going to get rich, you're going to get rich, go, you got to join, you got to do your 1,000 EVs first day, you're going to sign up, you're going to get a free store, do this, do this, do this, do this fast, etc., etc. And they don't even bother to grow any leaves. So they grow a huge branch, and what happens? It's going to die. Because without the leaves, it can't photosynthesize to support its own growth. And even with a strong root system, if a branch gets a fungus or whatever, if all the leaves die off on a particular branch, that branch is likely to die. So your leaves are critical to the success and the life of your tree and your branches. And those are your VIP shoppers. Now that's a healthy branch, and it's going to be making a nice income with lots of leaves. It'll make income in the initial phase as it's growing, even if it's just branches, because the compensation plan, or the profit plan as we like to call it, does pay you for each new branch when the people come in and do their qualification EV, because they're actually purchasing things to make their qualification. So it's still paying you on consumables being purchased for personal use. We do not wholesale, we do not resell. We refer into the company. The company carries all the inventory, they consign all the inventory to the stores. You should not in general stock up on anything and plan to resell it, unless you happen to have an existing business, a hair salon, nail salon, maybe a restaurant, whatever, where you think you have an avenue to sell one of our products, and then you can do it, but it is not our business model or our recommendation. So there's the tree analogy. I hope that helps you understand a little bit about how our business works, and I hope you see the importance of having lots of leaves on your tree in order to keep it healthy and, more importantly, producing you a large income.